All right, now this feature is awesome, and that's why I wanted this solar generator. Now this thing has some awesome features and was almost perfect. However, there is a lot of things that this thing has some problems with, and we'll get into that later on in the video. But check this out. I have this small 800 watt running watts, 1000 watt max generator charging the Vanpowers Super Power Pro 1500. What's amazing is this can charge at 1800 watts. Actually, I've had it higher from an AC outlet, but you could go in the app and you could turn it down to 300 watts of charging all the way up to 1800. And what's awesome about that is now I could charge that really fast if I'm at home, turning it up to 1800 watts, or I could charge it out while I'm camping if I have that small generator, or using somebody else's power with an extension cord, or using an outlet that can't supply 15 amps of current. Then I could turn that charge rate down. Now that's an awesome feature to have, right guys? Let me know down below if you would want that feature. The first biggest flaw that I want to mention right off the bat about this, you can't access that feature unless you go into the app, and the only way to go into the app is if you have the 4G connection to the unit on and you have that subscription. Now this does have a built-in tracker and GPS function and 4G, so if you have 4G and somebody steals your unit, you could find it and track it down. However, that's only free for the first year. After the first year, you have to pay like $120 a year to be able to access half the features on this thing, which is a huge negative. Now you can link directly to the unit through Wi-Fi. However, most of the controllability is gone if you link through Wi-Fi. You can't control the charge rate. You can't see where it's at, which obviously that's okay. I mean, I could see paying a premium to locate your device if it gets stolen. I mean, most tracking devices that you buy do charge a yearly or monthly fee. I'm okay with that. But what I'm not okay with is having to pay a fee to access just the general features of the unit, like controlling the charge rate, turning the brightness up and down on the light on the front. And we'll get into all that later on in the video, and I'll let you guys know exactly what you can and can't do if you don't pay that premium for that app after the first year. So let's get back to this testing. Right now it's charging at 296. Now I have the Vanpowers SP200 solar panel back there. I'm going to plug it into the XT60 port there, and you can see it's charging at 293 watts, and it's now bumped up to 326, 320. So this has dual charging. You could charge from AC while you're charging from solar, and it has pass-through charging, so you could turn the unit on and power outlets directly through this unit. And when you do that, the power does not go into the battery. It comes from the solar generator, goes directly out to whatever you're powering, and then any remaining power will charge your unit up, which is an awesome feature. This thing does have a UPS function, so it'll switch, I think it's like 13 milliseconds. If you have it connected to an AC outlet powering a device and the power goes out, it will automatically switch over and power that device. But if the battery runs completely out, the unit will shut off, and then when the power comes back on, it does not just kick the unit on and turn the AC outlet back on to power your device. So that's the only negative I've seen. That would have been nice to see it actually kick on the outlet and just start powering it when the power came back on. I'll go in the app and turn the charging rate up, and you'll hear the generator get louder. So right now it's charging at 300 watts from the gas generator. Going to bump it up to 500 watts here. And you can hear that the gas generator just got louder, and it's charging at 480, 497, 505. I'm going to go up and turn the charge rate up to 800 watts now. There it goes, and it's going to go ahead and pull max capacity from that little 1000 watt or 800 running watt generator. And that's the most I'm going to push it, because if I go any higher, it's going to throw the breaker on the generator. And I do have the generator on economy mode. I don't know if that's why it's ramping up and down, but I can shut that off. But anyway, charging right now at 844 watts because I'm getting probably 30 or 40 watts from the solar panel, because it's a very cloudy day, and the rest is coming from that generator. So that's really awesome in a pinch if you guys have to charge your power station up quickly. And if you had a bigger generator, you could crank this baby up to 1800 watts and charge it in like an hour and a half. All right, so another awesome feature about this Vanpowers Super Power Pro 1500 is that it has something I've never before seen in any power station, and that is that it has the ability to recharge through solar through the AC input, which is crazy. You could put 1800 watts of AC if you were charging from home, or you can hook your solar panels up in a series and input 60 to 160 volts from those solar panels directly into the AC input. Now you do need this cable to do it. It's an AC to MC4 connection, and they do not show these on their website. I'm not sure if you guys have to ask about them or if you purchase the dual panels with the unit, if it automatically comes with this. Not 100% sure on that, guys, so you might want to check on that. But with this cable, you can input up to 1800 watts of solar into that input. And there's also an XT60 port, which will also charge from solar. However, it is limited from 12 to 60 volts and 10 amps. So you can parallel two panels together and go into that port there, or you can run in series a bunch of panels until you hit 160 volts into the other AC unit. And I believe you could do dual charging too, which is up to like 2400 watts max, which honestly you're probably never going to see that, because you would have to have exact optimal panels for the right voltage, the right amperage to stay under the amperage input of 10 amps. And you're probably not going to see that, but that is amazing, guys. I've never seen anything like this before, where you can actually input solar into the AC input. With that being said, I did do some testing yesterday with it, and I was running into one issue, and I'll roll that clip for you here now, guys. All right, so I'm out here doing a bunch of testing, and I want to show you guys something that I observed while I was testing these panels with the Vanpowers solar generator. Now, right now, currently, I have two of these panels ran in series, hooked up to the port that goes into the AC port, and I just walked in front of it, so it's getting 0 watts now. But that's what I wanted to show you. I was just getting 80 watts. It is a really cloudy day today, and the sun's starting to go down, but I was just getting 80 watts. I went in front of one of the panels, and being that these are wired in series and the panels are also wired in series together, as soon as you shade one of these panels, you lose all output. The problem is that it never comes back charging again. It stays at 0, and I'm not sure why. It should just sense that there's nothing in front of it, and it should pick back up. Now, if you guys seen my Big Blue Cell Power 500 review, that had the same problem. Once it dropped below 10 watts, it never came back up over 10 watts until you unplugged the solar and plugged it back in. So not sure what's going on here, guys, with that, but that is when it's powered into the AC port, which will accept up to 1800 watts of solar. So to get it to turn back on, if you unplug it, what you have to do is shut the whole unit off, wait a little bit. I've been waiting around 10 seconds or so, and I'm not sure why you have to do this, but it's really a pain in the butt. I'm going to try it again once the sun is brighter and it's on a brighter day, and I'll get back to you guys what I've come up with after testing it longer. All right, so it's been a while now. Have this already plugged in. Going to turn it back on. It will take a few seconds for that grid flow to kick on, but once it kicks on, it should kick on and allow more input into it. All right, so it just kicked on, and you'll see the wattage there. The power came back up to 55 watts, and it will hold steady 60 watts. Like I said, really cloudy day, so not going to get much output out of these panels, but it does come back up if you shut the unit down, unplug that, wait a while, plug it back in, and you don't have to wait a long time, maybe like 10 seconds or so. Plug it back in, and then the charge rate will come back. But like I said, big flaw, there's 60 watts of input. Now I'm going to put my arm over one of these panels and show you that it will lose. There it goes down to 0. I'm going to move my arm, and it does not come back. Does not come back up to charge rate, guys. That's a huge negative. If this is out charging and someone walks in front of your panels and it cuts all output and does not come back on, that's a big problem. All right, beautiful sunny day out today. We're testing the solar panels into the Vanpowers Super Power Pro 1500, and we're going to see what kind of input we can get into there out of 3 200 watt panels. Now these are the Vanpowers SP200 panels, and I do have one Blue Eddy PV200 for a total of 600 watts of solar, and we're gonna see how much we can get into it. Now this is amazing, guys. I'm getting currently 551 watts input into this unit, and you can see here that it does have dual input. You can input 12 to 60 volts in the XT60 connector, or you can input solar into the AC input. We're gonna go ahead and see if I shade these panels, what happens. Now I'm getting 566. Not sure if you'll be able to see this on the screen. Gonna go ahead and shade a panel. Just gonna stand in front of some panels here. And being that these panels, like I said previously, are wired in series, and then I have them wired in series together, positive to negative, negative to positive, and then into that AC input there. When you shade one panel, you pretty much lose all power output of both panels because everything's wired in series here. Now I'm still getting the input from the Blue Eddy panel into the XT60 input port, and it's down to 221 watts, 223. So let's see if it jumps back up to the 500 and some that it was at, and hopefully it does. And it's looking like still 207. Gonna give it a few minutes and see if that input comes back. All right, everyone, so unfortunately I've waited about 10 minutes and the power never came back on the AC input on this unit when charging from solar. That's a big negative. Now I have been messing around with it. I did have 2 occasions where the power did come back, but for the most part, almost every time I shade the panels, the power from the AC input goes out and never comes back up. Now the power that's going in through the XT60 import from the Blue Eddy panel, which just blew over, that input stayed at 200 watts. It did drop a little bit, but came back. So it seems like the power does come back on the XT60 input. It just does not come back on the AC grid flow input. So that's a big bummer. You guys kind of got to watch. If you notice your output's way down, you have to shut the unit off completely, unplug everything, plug it back in, and then the power comes back on. But we're gonna go ahead and test it one more time, getting 522 watts now. I'm just gonna stand in front of the panels, you know, just if somebody was walking by, shading the panels. We'll see what the input goes down to. And I'm down to 70 some watts right now. That's because this one blew over, but 90 watts, 96. And yeah, like I said, I've waited 10 minutes last time and it never came back. For some reason, it does not ramp back up. Hopefully they could fix that in a future firmware update, because they can update this over the air. So hopefully that could be updated. But I'll keep you guys posted down below in the comments if it does get updated. And I'd also like to get a few more panels that I can wire in series together with these and see what kind of max input I can get into these, and to see if I have a problem at that point with a higher voltage, somewhere closer to the 160 volt limit. I haven't seen anyone else do this test with these, so hopefully this test helps you guys understand a little bit about how this thing works. Now, if you do have one of these units and some solar panels, please do this test and let me know down in the comments below if you have similar results. And on this bright sunny day right now, I just have the 2 Vanpowers SP200 panels plugged into the unit right now, and I'm getting 379 watts input, which is really good because it is a little bit hazy. I mean, for the most part, it's pretty clear, but there's a few light bands of clouds up there. So pretty good in my opinion for 379 watts of input. And one thing I want to mention is they do make 2 different units. This is the Vanpowers 1500, which has lithium iron phosphate batteries, LFP. And if you have done your research, you know that LFP batteries last a lot longer. You get about twice the lifespan out of these versus lithium ion. Now, if you do need more capacity, they do have a 2000 watt hour unit. This one is 1,440 watt hours, but the 2,000 watt hour unit uses lithium ion batteries. Now, for those of you that need the extra output, that might be a good option. For me, I wanted the one with a little bit less watt hours, but that's going to last twice as long and a little bit safer on the battery. So really nice that they do give you those two different options there to choose from, but just keep that in mind. The two different units that they offer have two different styles of batteries. Other than that, everything else is pretty much the same. All the features on the unit are the same. Same case, same everything. The only difference is the watt hour capacity and the style of battery it uses, lithium ion versus lithium iron phosphate. All right, so this is what's amazing. This has only been charging for about 2.5 hours out here with these 3 solar panels, and it's already charged to 100% from 27% to 100% in 2.5 hours, which is amazing. On a bright sunny day like today, that's awesome. Oh, and I want to mention that in those 2.5 hours, there was nothing in front of the panels, nothing walked in front, clouds did not shade them, so it never cut output, never had to reset it in those 2.5 hours. So even though this thing does have some downfalls, it will still work out great in certain situations as well. So over the past few weeks, I've done a lot of testing with this unit, and I want to share my results and some of my observations with all of you. So I did a DC phantom power draw test on this unit. I had the unit turned on with just the DC outlets on, and after 13 hours, it lost 7%. So just over 0.5% per hour loss with the DC inverter on. What's nice about this is you don't need the DC power on to use the 100 watt output USB-C ports. Those will still be powered even though the DC is off, which is really nice. And I also did an AC phantom power draw drain with the AC inverter on, nothing plugged into it, nothing drawing power. And it used about 1.8 to 2% of battery per hour with the 4G and the AC outlets being on. So in 10 hours, it used 18% of the battery capacity just from having the AC inverter on. And another test I did with this was a capacity test. So what I did was I plugged a small portable heater into this, and it was drawing about 500 watts consistently, and I drained it from 100% all the way to 0%, and it used, according to my kilowatt meter, 1,260 watt hours in 2 hours and 33 minutes for an efficiency of 87.5% out of the AC on this unit. Now that's with a 500 watt load drawing continuously. Now if you're using a load that is lower than that, like 100 watts, you're not going to get as much efficiency out of it because it is going to use that 1.8% of power for each hour that it's on. So keep that in mind. And one thing I noticed is once it got down to around 12 to 15%, it dropped like a rock. I mean, it immediately went to 0 and shut off. So don't trust the last 15% or so. Just figure once you get down to 15%, it's going to be about dead. Now, I may have to discharge and recharge this a few times for it to learn, not sure. I'll update you down below if that's the case, but that's just something that I observed. Now, one other thing that I observed when I was recharging this is that once it reaches 100% capacity and you have this plugged into an AC outlet or into solar, it will still keep taking in like 75 watts continuously and never shut the charge controller off. It just constantly draws about 70 watts of current according to my kilowatt meter. So if you leave this thing on powering AC outlets, it's going to continue to draw amps no matter what, no matter if there's anything being pulled from the unit or not. I don't know why it doesn't shut off and quit putting input into the unit. I don't know if that's the wattage that it takes to activate and run the charge controllers in this thing, but it seemed kind of odd. Now, one cool feature that you can do in the app is you can adjust your charge rate to stop at 90%, 80%, anywhere between like 50 and 110% increments. Now that's cool if you only want to charge to 80% to prolong the battery life of this unit. One thing to keep in mind is if you're charging with solar, that's not going to work and it's going to charge to 100% anyway, which is probably what you would want if you were charging from solar. And the unit does shut off at 90% or 80, whatever you have it set to when you're plugged into an AC wall outlet, and everything seems to work fine. It does not input extra wattage into the unit. Once it hits that 80 or 90%, it shuts everything down. No extra power goes into the unit. So that works like it should. However, for some reason, when it's set to 100% and it hits 100, it just keeps pulling in, like I said, 70 to 80 watts of power. And another thing to keep in mind, if you were using this as a UPS backup and you had the AC outlets turned on, then your charge limit does not stop either. If you have the AC outlets on while it's charging, it's going to charge to 100% no matter what you have it set in the app. That would have been nice to have it still limited if you were using it as a UPS function and still wanted to limit it to 80% capacity. Would have been kind of cool. All right, so now a few observations that I've seen when using the app and adjusting some of the features on this unit. When you are logged in solely through Wi-Fi to this unit, you have really limited adjustability on some of the features. The only thing you can do when you're logged in through Wi-Fi is you can turn the unit off if it is on. You could turn the AC and DC outlets on or off. You can turn on amp mode, which I didn't talk about this in this video, but amp mode, once it surpasses 2,000 watts of output, it'll actually start lowering the voltage and power things up to 3,000 watts, which wouldn't be good for real sensitive electronics, but would be good for certain things like maybe space heaters and things like that. So it's a nice feature to have. And then you could turn your LED light on the front of this unit on or off when logged in through Wi-Fi and change the colors, but you cannot adjust the brightness. Now that's pretty much all you can do through Wi-Fi. And another thing I noticed is the input wattage that it shows you whenever you're charging is not accurate whatsoever. Right now it's showing I'm getting 3 watts of input, and on the unit I'm actually getting 67 watts through one of these panels that I currently have hooked up. So the input wattage is way off when you're going through Wi-Fi. Everything else seems to be accurate. The percentage of the unit, the hours remaining for the charge time, 1.8 hours, 1.6 now, and 1.8 on the unit, but that's fluctuating. So those seem to be accurate, but for some reason the input wattage nowhere near accurate if you were monitoring it through the app. And the Wi-Fi is a little spotty. It's constantly kicking me off and I'm having to log back in. It doesn't just link back in automatically. It just seems like a little bit of an extra process. I wish it would just link up automatically Wi-Fi. Maybe Bluetooth would have been a better option to link through it with Bluetooth instead of Wi-Fi. That's just my opinion. So now let's look at some of the features you can do when you're logged in with 4G, which you get a lot more accessibility there. But like I said, after the first year, once that subscription expires, you may have to pay the $120 to get these features back. All right, so now when you're logged in through the 4G, you have a lot more adjustability, and the input wattage that it shows you on here is actually accurate. However, it's not updated. You have to exit to the home screen and then go back in to actually see the accurate percentage of your unit and the input wattage or the output wattage that this thing is using. It's not a live update, so as it's running, you're not going to see a fluctuation up and down on wattage. So I'm not quite sure how useful that's going to be. It is kind of cool to see what each output or input is doing, but without it being live, it's kind of a pain. So now I'll talk about the features that you can do when you're logged into 4G that you cannot do when you're logged in through Wi-Fi. So in 4G, you can adjust your charge rate from 3, 5, 8, 12, or 1800 watts. You can actually see the output of the DC and the AC individual and all the USB ports. You can see exactly how many watts are going out through each. You have a sleep mode, which you can activate, which limits the power input to 300 watts, and the light and sound are turned off. You can adjust the brightness of the light on the front. You can adjust your maximum charge rate, and you can also go in and set your power timeout limits. I have mine set to never turn off because I want to have control of when the unit turns off. And you can set your display timeout, which I turned mine to never because I could turn it on and off from the front of the unit whenever you have it set to never, which is really nice. I hate when units don't allow you to adjust the display to stay on, because when you're trying to do videos like this especially and look at things, you're constantly having to hit the button for it to turn back on. So that is nice that they give you that option there, that you can set your timeout on your display. You could turn the sounds on or off, see the temperature of the unit and set that from Fahrenheit to Celsius. And then you can also check out the location and see where the unit is at. Now, one thing about that location feature, after testing this for a few weeks, it's pretty far off. It was at one point 3/4 of a mile or so off, and just recently it's about a half a mile off now. So not very accurate as far as pinpointing it down to somebody's house if they steal the unit. Now, I don't know if it's just with my unit or if they're all like that. I would like to hear your feedback. If you have one of these, please let me know. So that is a cool feature to have if somebody does steal your unit. However, you're only going to be able to track it if the unit is turned on, if the 4G is on, and it may only get you within a half a mile. So now let's check out all the features of this unit and see what it comes with. Now, I did get the unit with 2 Vanpowers SP200 solar panels, and these panels are pretty amazing. They are 200 watts each. They come in a nice heavy duty carry bag here to keep your panels nice and clean when you're transporting. It does have a pocket on this case where you can hold all of your cables. Now there's a pocket on the panels too, but they're not that big, so this is going to be really nice for you to take some of your cables with you. But let me get this panel out and show you some of the features of it. So here's the panel itself. Now it does have a pocket on this panel. However, the pocket's not really big, not a whole lot of storage in there for a lot of wires. And it does have MC4 connectors on the panels, which is really nice to see, nice and waterproof. This cable is not very long though. I would have liked to have seen maybe a 10-foot MC4 cable on this instead of like, what is this, maybe like 3 feet. The maximum power of this panel is 200 watts. It does use sun power solar cells, which is awesome. My 100-watt panel, the X-Star SP100, I believe it is, uses the same type of cells, and that has been one of my favorite panels to date, so I'm really excited about these ones. Now, one thing to note about these, the open circuit current is 41 volts. If you're using this on your solar generator, if you already have one and you want to purchase these panels for it, make sure your unit will accept 41 volts because you will blow that import out unless you have protections in your unit that will cut it off if it has like an over voltage protection. So that's one of the main things about solar panels. You can over amperage your unit and your unit's only going to use as many amps as it needs, but you cannot over voltage a lot of solar generators. So keep that in mind. You don't want to blow your stuff out. So with that being said, this has a 6.4 short circuit current and a working current of 5.5 amps. So what's nice about these panels is they have a higher voltage, a lower amperage. So when your unit is limited to say 10 amps like the Vanpowers is, you could parallel 2 of these together and you'll almost get full output out of 2 panels into the unit when they're paralleled. A lot of other panels have maybe 8 or 9 amps of output, and if you parallel 2 of them together and your unit's only a 10 amp input limit, you're really not going to be gaining much by going in parallel. When you run these in series, you will be running at 82 volts or so open circuit current, because when you run panels in series, your voltage does double. So that's another thing to keep in mind. If you run 2 of these in series, make sure your unit can handle that 80 some volts. Now the Vanpowers, like I said, you can put up to 160 volts in it. So you can actually put probably about 4 of these panels together in series. And that would be the max you could put into that Vanpowers unit with these panels. So the max you're gonna get is 800 watts into that unit from the Vanpowers 200 watt panels. Now with these solar panels came these adapters here, MC4 to 4 different adapters. You have a 8mm adapter, an Anderson adapter, 5521, and also a cigarette lighter plug. Now, if you guys know what this cigarette lighter plug is for, let me know, because I would not want to power this from a solar panel, especially a 41 volt solar panel, and I don't know what you would plug this into. I wouldn't plug it into my 12 volt car receptacle because I would think that would cause an issue. I mean, I may be wrong, but I don't want to try it and blow anything out my vehicle. So I'm not sure why they would give you this end on here. Now, on one of them, I did take the tip out and take the fuse out because when you're wired into your solar panel, this is actually hot. You would get ground on the sides here and power here. One thing I want to mention, and you guys need to check this if you get one of these, both of these cables that they sent me with the panels, the MC4 connectors were wired on backwards. So when you plugged it into your solar panel, you were actually getting negative out of the positive and positive out of the negative on all these connectors. The cigarette lighter connector, the Anderson 5521 and 8mm plug all had reversed polarity. So make sure you check that with a voltmeter when you get yours to make sure it's not wired in reverse. Now I was able to take these apart and put new ends on these ones, so I did make these work. Now with the unit itself, you do get a nice little carry pouch for some of your wires. Now the pouch is not very big. I wish it would have been a little bit bigger to hold some bigger wires. They are packed in here pretty tight, but you do get an MC4 to XT60 connector, which will plug one panel into the unit. Now, if you do want to go parallel and plug two panels into that XT60 port, like I said, it will accept 12 to 60 volts at 10 amps. You will need a connector such as this, where you could plug two of them in parallel and come out with one. You can go right into the XT60 port. Now, I'll leave a link down below to one that will work well with these panels. So if you do want to pick up this set, then that will allow you to plug in parallel into the XT60 port. It also comes with a cable for charging from your AC wall outlet. And what's awesome is this has a built-in brick already in it. There is no brick to carry around. All you need is this cable here, which is really nice. It comes with a cigarette lighter to XT60 plug. And this allows you to charge up to 120 watts from your car outlet. Now, it will take you a pretty long time to charge up from your vehicle, but it is nice that they give you that option to charge while you're driving down the road. They also give you a USB-C to USB-A. They give you two of those because, as you can see on the front of this unit, there is no USB output ports. So this is kind of like how Apple did away with them. Well, now they are, I guess they're future-proofing it. It would have been nice, in my opinion, to see at least one USB-A port. That way, you know, if you had cables laying around, which I'm sure most of you do, then you would still be able to charge your USB-A devices from the unit without plugging one of these adapters in. I mean, at least they give you the adapters, but that's just one thing that I could see that may get lost over time if you don't keep them in the case, or maybe you forget them one day. Like I said, would have been nice to see at least one port on there. So to deploy this second panel, these legs are Velcroed, and there is one leg for each panel, which is really nice. I hate when solar panels give you like 4 panels and then they don't put a leg on one of them. I mean, what's the point? Unvelcro all this, pop it open, pop all the legs out. Now, these legs aren't really adjustable. I mean, you could set them up like this if you need to, but there's really nothing adjustable there on the bottom straps here. Keep them shorter if you need to. So I got that there. Now I am gonna connect one of the wires of the ones that were wired backwards that I fixed. Just connect these MC4 together. And what I'm gonna use is the Anderson connector. Gonna plug each one of these into my parallel adapter here. And this adapter actually has a back feeder in it that prevents current flowing back through. And like I said, I got that on Amazon. So now I got both panels connected in the parallel into this, and we will plug it into the XT60 port here. But as simple as that to hook them up. They are some pretty nice panels, guys. The only thing I would have wished for was maybe a little more adjustability on the legs. But other than that, really good quality ETFE coating on the front, which should last a good while. So the front of this unit has a nice display. It shows you your power meter around the outside with your level remaining. Shows you how much time you have for charging or how much time you have remaining if you had output. The input wattage, output wattage, your 4G connectivity up there. And you turn your 4G off by holding the DC button in for a few seconds. And then this button up here is for your Wi-Fi to turn it on or off. Down here, it shows that it is charging. And then when you have the solar plugged in through the AC connector, you will get a grid flow icon up here in the corner. This button turns the unit on and off, and this button turns your AC outlets on and off. And when you are charging through that AC solar input through this input here, you cannot use the AC outlets. Now, if you're charging through the XT60 port, it does have pass-through charging, and you can run AC things off of it if you're charging through there. But like I said, if you are charging with up to 1800 watts of solar through this port here, you cannot use your AC outlets. Has a nice handle here for carrying the unit around, and then it has this retractable handle here, which allows you to roll it around on these wheels, which is really nice. And what I love about these AC output ports here is that they're all staggered different ways. So if you have something with a big brick that you're plugging into, the brick doesn't get in the way as you plug into each one of these because they're all opposite. Really nice thought there. Another cool feature on the side here, you do have a grounding screw if you want to ground this unit to the ground. Up here on the front, you have dual 100 watt output USB-Cs. Then you have two 20 watt USB-Cs. Now this is combined 20 watts. These are 100 watts each. Then you have three 5521 ports that have a max output of 10 amps between all three. or the DC socket around the side there, the car outlet, for a total output of 136 watts. So I used this thing one morning in my kitchen to do everything I needed to do, from cooking breakfast to making coffee, and I was pretty impressed with the results. So when I used that water cooker to heat the water up to make coffee in my French press, the first time I used it, it dropped 4%, and then I used a big hot plate griddle to make eggs and ran that for 11 minutes. It used 11%. And then I made 4 slices of toast in a toaster, which used 3%. And at that point, the unit was down to 82%. And then I made coffee 2 more times after that in that water cooker, and it used 9% each time making the coffee after that. And when I was all said and done, I had 64% battery left. So I was really impressed doing all those things, making coffee 3 times, toast, eggs, that I had that much capacity left. Now, if it was during a day and I was out camping, able to put solar input into that XT60 port while using the output, I would have gotten better capacity out of this at that point, because I'd been getting in at least almost 400 watts of solar while I was cooking breakfast. So that would have been pretty awesome to test. But overall, guys, really good unit as far as the output of it, the input of it. However, like I said, as you guys seen in the video, there was some flaws with recharging, and the only other issue that I see is that you cannot log into the app unless you have 4G connection. You can't even log into the Wi-Fi without having a 4G connection on your phone. So that's a big flaw in my opinion. Hopefully they can update that in the future to at least make you have access to all the features through just Wi-Fi, and not making you have to have connection to the internet to link up to their system to verify whatever. So hopefully that could be updated, because I'd hate to lose half the features in this after the first year when that subscription expires. So thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you found this helpful, and if you're interested in purchasing one of these after watching this video or the solar panels, I'll leave links down below in the description where you can pick one of these up for yourself. And if you found this video interesting, please make sure you guys hit the like button, leave a comment down below, because it really helps my channel out, and consider subscribing so that I see you guys around on the next one. Thanks for watching, everyone.